Welcome to the Calgary Sessions. This is episode number 27. Today's guest, this will be obviously another fun conversation because that's the only people I have on this show. Him and I go way back through a mutual friend of ours, Johnny Nash. So this will be a really cool conversation because I've known him for a long time, but I don't know the full story. So anyways, name and where you work.
Awesome. First of all, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jon Howell, and the company I work at is Banbury Lane Design Center, second generation family business. Really proud to carry on the heritage, and that's where I work.
Cool, man. And we'll get into what Banbury is and all of it. So, you know, you've seen a bunch of these shows, and you know what I like to do. I'd like the guests to go back as far as they want to go, and you know, just where you grew up, how you grew up. And then kind of, you know, we'll weave into the family business. But yeah, just kind of go back to just, you know, a place and time where you kind of start remembering things were starting to click for you, or, you know, what was inspiring or what you found, you know, just go back as far as you want to go.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm a longtime Calgarian, which is, I think, pretty rare.
You born and raised?
So born in St. Albert.
Okay.
Yeah, moved here when I was 4
Okay.
after a quick stint in England. My parents had immigrated and apparently forgot why they left. So they took the whole family of 5 back to England. And we literally lasted 6 months.
No way.
And we were back.
Because did they go back to work, or they wanted to just bring the family back to their roots? Or
I think it was that. I think they obviously missed their family because no one else came over. But they found a lot more opportunity in Canada. And I think they were just second guessing. So they took us back. And as soon as they got back to England, realized Canada's better, and we came back like 6 months later. So
came back to where?
So back to St. Albert very briefly,
Yep.
and then to Calgary like 6 months later. Yeah.
And
so
why'd they move back here? Why'd they come to Calgary first?
a job for my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. When he got back from England, was looking for work and found a great one down here, and so we moved.
Yep.
And it was perfect timing for me because I was 4 years old at the time, just going into kindergarten.
Yep.
So I was able to start school here and go all the way through.
So where'd you go to elementary, junior high?
So Earl Grey for elementary, Rideau for junior high, and then Western for high school.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
So you've been here a long time, so you've seen the city kind of grow like crazy.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, huge growth. And it was really interesting when we get to that. Calgary has been through ups and downs for sure.
Yep.
Our business was started in probably one of the biggest downs. We started the business in the mid 80s. And as you probably remember, early to mid 80s in Calgary, was just a horrible time.
Yeah.
So really crazy time to decide to start a business, but that's when my dad decided to do it, and it's been awesome.
So how old were you when Banbury started?
So we started, I would have been about 12 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was working there.
That early?
Yep, that early. Like literally sweeping the stockroom, vacuuming, dusting the displays.
Yep.
Yeah. And all through high school and a little bit of university too, I was working there. And then I took a bit of a hiatus and came back full-time as an owner 20 years ago in this coming August. So
you know, as you're growing up, your dad's working, he's got a different job, you know, so from 4 to 12, you just kind of doing your thing. Like, you're obviously not working retail yet. You're just
doing my thing. Like, I was actually thinking back to some of the awesome times at Rideau. We would bring our hockey stuff to school. After school, we'd cross Elbow Drive, hit the outdoor rinks.
Yep.
Parents would drop off supper for us.
No way.
Yeah.
You're that hardcore.
Oh, yeah. And then they'd literally come and drag us out of there at like 9, 10 at night. And just so many great memories. Yep. Like a lot of the guys, you know, like Lindsay Nang, and just awesome times growing up there. Yeah.
So when your dad, what did he do before he started Banbury?
Great question. So he worked for, do you remember a store called Revelstoke? Revy? It was sort of a precursor to Rona. It was like a building materials store.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So he did that, and
worked in the store?
He was actually the head buyer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Like, if you've heard of some of the brands like Behr Paint, like BEHR, he brought that to Canada. Yeah, and
Crazy.
So he was importing tons of stuff. So he was in the industry, and then obviously early '80s, things
Yep.
did not go well.
Yep.
So I don't really know the whole story, but I know he left. He may have been packaged out or something like that, and then was sitting there in the middle of a deep recession and thought, what would be a great thing to do, and start a business. Was his answer.
Which is so, you know, and the business you own right now, it's so specialized. Like it's such a niche market to, you know, when your dad opened the business in the mid 80s, at 12 years old, are you just like, oh, dad has a place to go to work? Did you understand what he was actually like buying and selling?
I didn't understand it much. And it was really cool because we grew up in Mount Royal, but I have to say it was definitely on the edge of Mount Royal. Like we literally grew up on 14th Street. So we were not a typical Mount Royal family, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
Good preface.
Yes. So, although we lived in an amazing house and I was absolutely lucky, so not saying anything, but we lived in Mount Royal in Elbow Park, and my dad saw an opportunity that all these people were going to be renovating heritage homes and needing specialized hardware, and there was nowhere at the time to get it. So he really saw a niche opportunity to do that, and started in a tiny showroom. Our first showroom was about 500 square feet.
Where was it?
So the building was on the corner of 14th Street and 27th Ave.
Is that the original, like the brick one?
Yeah, the brick one.
That one, yeah.
So we started in the bay that's on the far left, which is now a cannabis shop, which is awesome. And
Pro Skate used to be there right beside you, right?
I was just going to say.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So shortly after my dad started, he knew he needed more space. It was perfect because Pro Skate opened up in Marda Loop.
Right.
Their space became open. In the middle was a European deli. So we moved over to Pro Skate space, which was amazing because it was way more space.
Yep.
And in fact, when I came on with the business in 2002, that's where we were. And shortly after I came on, I knew we needed more space, like almost immediately.
Yep.
So it worked out great because the European deli was relocating, and we were able to take on their space.
Yep.
Take out, it was actually perfect because we renovated their space, temporarily moved over to that space, renovated our old space, and then just knocked down the wall.
Perfect.
So the only thing there was that we were renting, and in that space we rented for 27 years.
No way.
So we put a lot of money
27 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Was there a basement in that place too?
Yeah, there was.
Like super steep?
So good memory. We had spiral stairs that my dad actually put in.
No way.
After Pro Skate left. But it obviously wasn't conducive to people with mobility issues.
Yep.
So although we had a showroom down there, it was definitely underutilized. And it was interesting too in that building because it was very, very awkward because we had two separate basements and there wasn't access to each from the basement.
Yep.
So you'd have to come back up and go down.
Madness.
It was total madness.
So when you decide to start, you know, at 12 years old, it's after school, it's weekends, just being an extra hand in the building. What did you think? Was it obviously it was your first job, but I'm sure your friends weren't working at 12.
They weren't. And honestly, I loved it. I was absolutely happy to do anything because I did know that my ultimate goal was to learn how to sell stuff in the shop. So I was there and
you knew that early?
What's that, sorry?
You knew that early? Like you knew that at a young age that you wanted to be involved, like you knew you wanted to be involved in the family business?
Totally.
And you knew that selling was going to be a big...
Huge part of it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did. I knew it that early. And and so I just took it upon myself I'd be dusting and listening to other people sell. Yeah, and just absorbing it all in. And I even say that to some of our staff at our current business is one of the best ways to learn how to sell is just go hang out in the stockroom. I mean, it sounds dumb, but you learn what we have. And in our business, we do a combination of selling what we have and ordering stuff in for customers. But to know what we have when the people do want something right away, it's critically important.
Yep.
So reorganizing the stockroom and everything, it was perfect.
Just like the foundation to then go in the front of house and then sell to customers.
Exactly.
So what do you think was, you know, at 12, you know, when I think about myself at 12 years old, I was, you know, all I wanted to do was play hockey and, you know, try and pass school.
Yeah.
Do you think you were just watching your dad do something cool and you wanted to follow in his footsteps, or what is it that you can really remember at a young age that this is what you want to do, which I find fascinating?
I think it's a lot of that. It was my dad had started something cool. And what I really have appreciation for my dad is when he started out, he did all the work himself. Painting, building displays, all of that. And I just saw him putting that passion into the business, and it was contagious. I just wanted to help him. I remember in the basement, we had Saltillo tile floors. Him and I and my mom were laying them, and not maybe doing the greatest jobs, but
you were doing it.
We were doing it.
Yeah.
And it was just, I guess it's kind of that weird nostalgia, but it was a passion for him. I saw how hard he worked, and it was just contagious. I just wanted to help him do it.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have 2 older brothers, actually.
And did they feel like did they want to be involved in the business too?
So that's an awesome question.
It just seems very unique that you kind of figured something out at a very young age.
Yeah. So my older brother did work in the shop as well, doing sales. My little brother, he was actually has a military background. So he was in the Navy at a pretty young age and pretty committed to that. In fact, right out of high school, he was actually in active duty in the first Persian Gulf War on a destroyer. So he took a different path. And then my older brother worked at the shop for a while. And we both my older brother and myself took a hiatus at a certain point. I actually, during university, went and worked for a landscape company.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that? Prestige? So it was crazy. So I was doing that for quite a while and had kind of worked my way up there, where I was, other than the owner and his son, was kind of third in command there. So we both just kind of took a break from it. And then it was when my dad was thinking about retiring that he had to sort of figure out if any of the sons were interested, how it would all work out.
So you're both kind of there, like you're there for, from 12 till 18, kind of doing your thing with your brother?
Yep. Exactly.
And just doing everything. Just
mostly selling. Well, actually, that's not true. I shouldn't say that. We did do everything. In a small business, we'd be receiving the goods. I'll never forget, in the old shop, we were very, very short of space. So we literally would set up plywood in the gravel parking lot of the old space, receiving boxes, sometimes when it was like minus 30. And so literally just doing everything. And as you're going to, again, like you're working at a young age, like even in high school, I guess some kids have jobs in like retail gigs in high school. So you just kind of did it, same thing, weekends, evenings, whenever. Whenever. Yeah. It was like, we were only open one evening at a time, but I'll never forget, at a pretty young age, sometimes I was the only one there.
To lock up.
Yeah. I had to lock up and sell things that I, at the time, didn't know that much about. It was pretty scary.
You like this one? Sure.
Yeah.
You want two?
Exactly. I'm not sure how much they are, how long they'll take to get, but but it was, and mostly Saturdays. So it was, Saturdays was the majority, or even after hours helping my dad, even when we were closed, just doing maintenance and things like that.
Did your dad, as you're working there for, a long period of time, was he talking to you about this, like grooming you to potentially take it over? Or was he just letting you work there and just kind of, digest what's happening and just have a job?
Definitely the latter. I think my dad was really great about not expecting any of us to take over the business and just letting us work there, see how we liked it. So no, it was kind of actually cool the whole time. My dad, he started the business by himself, but about 3 to 5 years later, he had an employee that was obviously going to be a long-term employee that he actually sold a portion of the business to. And I more learned from her. I think with family business, there's always a risk of it not going well. And I was always definitely cognizant myself about, I never wanted that to become a wedge between my dad and I. So I kind of learned a lot from the business partner, and she was awesome too. So it was good.
And so after you get out of, because you and I kind of connected you were in university. I was definitely not at U of C. You were. And so when you're at university, what are you taking at U of C?
Literally, I decided to take what I enjoyed, which was political science.
Which is, okay. So you're working from 12 till whatever, 18.
You
graduate, grade 12, you're out.
Yeah.
You're working at the shop. You're thinking like, I want to sell. I want like this is very interesting. And then you take
Yeah.
poli-sci.
Then I take poli-sci. Absolutely.
So
I think
what's with the left hook?
Maybe I wasn't smart enough to get into business. I tell my son this to this day. I got into university because of Phys Ed 30. So, but
how? So, because when I was trying to get into school, you could use French 30 instead of Math 30.
Yeah.
I sucked at both, so I couldn't get into either. But you could use Phys Ed 30 for something?
It was just
elevated your mark?
That was just it.
Okay.
It was, yeah, because I think I had something crazy like a 96. I think I might have even got the Phys Ed 30 award, and it just brought my average up enough to squeak by.
Did you play high school sports?
Rugby.
Oh, no way.
Just rugby, yeah.
So how'd you get the highest mark in gym? What were you doing?
You know what? I actually sucked up to the teachers. Like whenever they would need stuff, I was just a happy boy.
You were helping.
Yeah, definitely.
So funny. So you get to university and you take poli-sci.
Yeah.
And you just, that was the only option? You're just like, it seems
with
half interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I loved it.
Really?
I truthfully loved it. I took general studies. I was on academic probation. Not proud of that, but did quite a bit of partying.
That's where we met, the den.
Yeah. Exactly.
That lovely carpet floor at the den.
Yes. That just reeked after a Thursday night, eh? Oh, yeah. So I took everything, and it was the thing that I actually loved. So Johnny Nash and I were in political science together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did a crazy trip to England and got to stay in a castle. And it was really fun.
And are you still working the shop during university, or is this the start of the break?
This was the start of Prestige.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved over just because with Prestige, I could make a lot of money in the summers.
Yep.
Because I was probably working 16 hours a day.
Yep.
So that was the thing. I was partially paying for my own education. So I just needed to, and I just wanted to try new things too. So.
What was it, you think? Like just the family business looked great. You just wanted to make sure that you were all in on it, or you just had to just scratch an itch, or?
Definitely. And it was like, I worked at Prestige a long time.
A long time?
Yeah, a long time. So the story with that is, in the end, my wife, Michelle, said, you have to pick me or Prestige, because
it was heavy.
It was, like the hours continued, even because I worked there after I was done university. So I was working full time. Summers, it could be like 16, 18 hours a day. And then you'd think you'd make up for it in the winter, but we were heavy into snow. So if you never knew if you were going to work really with snow, and if there was a heavy snowfall, you were working like 6 days straight for like 19, 20 hours a day.
Yep.
So it's just not the best life.
Yep.
At the time you're into it, you think you enjoy it, but I'm so glad Michelle made me make that decision.
Here's the ultimatum.
Yeah, exactly. So
did you as you're in university and you poli-sci is like, no disrespect obviously, but it's a tricky one to use, right?
Totally.
To have that degree, I'm not exactly sure where it goes, but it seems like your options are limited.
Yep.
I might be wrong.
Yep.
Did you just want to finish something, and did you think Prestige was going to be your jam for a while?
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of people do use poli-sci as a stepping stone into law school,
right?
Which was definitely a thought for me. But then at the time I was at Prestige, and I got promoted pretty well there. Like I actually wanted to work in the field at Prestige, but the moment I was applying, they're like, would you consider working in the office? And I'm like, absolutely. So then I just worked my way up, and I was doing sales there. So I'd be selling to developers, home builders for show homes, huge condo corps and so I was doing some big deals at Prestige, and they just kept promoting me, and you just kind of get sucked in.
And the sales thing, was it a natural? Listening to everything that's happening at the shop, and then all of a sudden you just have to go talk to people and sell?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And I had a chat with my wife last night. She's like, John, when I met you, you were one of the shyest guys ever. She's like, you didn't know how to speak to adults.
When did you two meet?
We met in a poli-sci class.
Okay.
Yeah. So she went to Western as well, Michelle, but we kind of met that way.
Same grade?
She was a year behind.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would have been in second year university. She would be in first. It was a poli-sci 201. I'll never forget. Kai Dvorkin. He was in that class with me chewing tobacco.
Cowboy boots.
And nothing changed.
Crazy.
And that's where I met Michelle. And it was kind of funny because at first we met, but she was still dating another guy that you probably know, Matt Duncan.
Oh yeah.
So it was awkward that way, but they broke up, and I was sort of still dating a girl that was going to University of Western Ontario. So a little bit of a weird start, but yeah. It always
history.
is.
So when you're at Prestige, is it, you know, are you cold calling to get sales, or are you fielding calls coming in, or what's your like gig look like?
Yeah, we were really busy and we never actually had to cold call. We'd have huge clients, property managers, and it would just be a matter of really quoting furiously for all these condos all around Calgary. And we had a good reputation. And so, yeah, it was quoting, not really, it was just managing sales really.
Yep.
Yeah. It was,
which, you know, I don't know everything you do right now, but it seems like that there's a strong connection from everything you did there to obviously owning your own business and
totally
what happens there.
And it's been the same struggle, and I will never complain about the struggle, but at Banbury, the city and the company has gone through boom times and quieter times, but often at Banbury, we struggle to deal with the amount of people coming in.
Yep.
We never have to look for work. In fact, it's just trying to keep up with the incoming quotes and things like that.
Yep.
So it's an awesome problem to have.
Yeah, but and how long has it been open for?
36 years in March.
So, and can you remember the highs and the lows, and can you do anything to combat that, or do you just ride it out?
That's a great question. It's always so fascinating because when you're busy, you don't have time to do anything else.
Yep.
Think about the quiet times. And then luckily in Calgary, the quiet times I've found relatively short.
Yep.
And so you can make changes. You can change your staffing level. Being that with our business, a lot of what we order in.
Yep.
We're not stuck with this huge inventory that we have to sell.
Right.
So we're just ordering less. You can gear down pretty quickly. And then, in the really lean times, maybe we tried to introduce ourselves to new builders, things like that.
Yep.
But there's not much we really done.
So what is it that Banbury's done for 36 years that allows you to work like that? Is it like, what's the calling card? Like, what's made this thing work for that long?
So, 1,000% comes down to one thing. Great staff and the customer service. So we've had the clients that have been with us the whole time, 30 plus years. And it's when there's a problem, you fix it. And you always be honest, never cheat a client.
Yep. And
if people are stuck, like we've been out on weekends to let people into their houses when they've been locked out, anything.
Yep.
It's just 100% service, and people really do appreciate it.
And is it, and I love that because it makes so much sense. It's a very long-term play, right? To have that as your calling card, and that's one of your main focuses. Yep. There's not like a direct ROI to that.
Exactly.
You're not delivering excellent service and then tracking it every month. Well, this service was a 9 this month, and sales. This is just a common thing you do over and over.
Over and over again. We do things like people buy locks from us and we'll cut keys for them for 20 years for free. And the kind of where you do see the benefit is we've had people now that are on their 5th home with us. So they come back and it's so cool. We now have people where we're selling hardware to their kids.
Yep.
And it's just the word of mouth. That's why we are busy. And like the customer service sometimes is very difficult to keep and to meet people's expectations, but it's just so worth it for us. Yeah.
It's interesting that you knew right away. Like as soon as I asked the question, I could see your brain. You're like, I already know I know the answer.
Yeah.
There's no surprise here.
Yeah. And it's crazy because actually quite a few of our competitors in this industry, which is such a niche industry, haven't survived, but we have, and I know why we have.
Yeah.
We've got several of our staff have been with us 15 plus years, and you wouldn't think that selling in knobs is difficult, but in that technical door hardware side, I'm learning stuff every day, and I've been doing this full time for 20 years. It can be really tricky, and knowledgeable staff, having staff that are happy, so important.
Yeah, which is like the staff piece is really interesting. It kind of keeps everything moving the right direction because for the amount of pieces that you guys sell, it's impossible for you guys to not have people helping you out.
Totally, and it's very, very difficult piece of our business because I don't think yet we've ever hired someone that came in who had worked in a shop like ours.
Because there's no other shop like it.
Exactly. So it's we almost prefer people to be green in that way.
Yep.
But the training process is like 1 to 2 years minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank goodness we've always been lucky that people stay,
Yep.
enjoy it, and because it's just a ton to learn at first.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I've been in your shop a whole bunch lately, obviously, and
Yep.
there's a lot going on down there. So I can't imagine what it takes for someone to figure it out and be able to talk, somewhat educated about all these products. So it's like, I can't imagine. 1 to 2 years makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's a crazy time as it is for everyone, but cost increases, and we literally have thousands of items on display, and they're all in our books. They're in US dollar, and then people are having price increases and not giving us new catalogs. So to keep everything, to keep track of everything is just a massive amount of work.
Madness.
Yeah.
So when Michelle says to you, like, I'm just taking you back again because that's what I do.
That's awesome.
So when Michelle says to you, like, pick, this lifestyle, this landscaping business is not ideal.
Yep.
Was it like the perfect time when your dad was thinking about making a move?
It literally was that whole
and just like randomly perfect timing.
Randomly perfect timing.
Crazy.
Like there was so many things that just were perfect timing there. Michelle we had decided that we wanted to do some traveling. So she had said, she'd given me the ultimatum. So we literally decided we're going to go traveling for a year. And then we had made those plans.
Where'd you go?
So we went to Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. Yeah.
And when she said, let's go travel, were you like, yeah, great, let's go? Like, was traveling a thing in your brain that you always wanted to do? Or was it just, you never did it because you were working so much?
I'd always wanted to travel, but both Michelle and I had been working right out of university. So I was at Prestige. She got hired by the school board right away. And so, it was just trying to find a time to do it.
Yep.
And for me, it was easy because I had made that decision to leave Prestige.
Yep.
For Michelle, it was a lot harder. She actually had to resign from CBE and didn't know whether she'd have a job when she got back.
And that's a big thing because it takes you a while to get in CBE, and then when you leave, there's nothing to come back to.
It has pension ramifications, everything. So it was a massive deal for both of us.
So you guys were gone for a year?
Yeah, about 10 months. And then we came back and we actually drove across Canada too.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good year.
It's a pretty good year. Yeah.
So when you're traveling around, are you just hitting spots that were just somewhat interesting, or did you guys have a solid plan in place, or are you just kind of flying?
Really random. In fact, if we can get into that, there's some pretty crazy stories from that year. So there was an airline, which is still a great airline, Singapore Airlines. They had this deal where it was basically an around the world ticket, or at least from Canada to Southeast Asia, including Australia and New Zealand and back. And it was like $1,200.
No way.
Yeah, with like 5 stops. And Singapore Airlines economy class is like first class. Like it was so good. So we found this deal and we're like, let's go. And at the time, actually, one of your former guests' brother, Ashley Hagelin, he was living in Singapore.
No way.
And he's like, yeah, come make Singapore your base. Stay with us whenever you want.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and he'd obviously traveled extensively through that, so tons of recommendations from him.
Yep.
So it worked out amazing. We were so Ashley's like, yeah, you got to go over to Sumatra in Indonesia and go to all these places. So we took his advice. It was amazing in Sumatra. We were done there, and we were taking this kind of cruise ship. They called the Pelni boat from northern Indonesia over to Jakarta. And when we were on that boat, 9/11 happened.
No way.
Yeah. And so I didn't know this at all at the time even, but Indonesia is the largest, by population, largest Muslim country in the world. So we had like some American people on the boat, like they're like, you might need to take it easy and lay low for a while. And we did, like, we were pretty early into our travels there. So we kind of did take it easy, headed over to like Bali and Lombok. And then actually some tourists did start to get attacked.
No way.
Sort of retaliation.
Yep.
And so we kind of decided it'd be a good time to do New Zealand.
Excellent.
So we did this midnight run out of Lombok and had to go through Kuala Lumpur and then arrived in New Zealand. So
crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That was a long time ago.
I was.
Like 20 years?
Yeah, 2001, right? I think so. Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
So after you guys are traveling, you guys, obviously you could tell travel stories forever.
Absolutely. Yep.
You guys travel, and when you're coming back,
Yep.
what are you thinking?
So sorry, I should go back a little bit too, because when we had decided to travel, that's when me and my dad had the discussions about me taking over Banbury before we left for traveling.
Gotcha.
And he told me his timing about when it would be ideal for him to sort of step back. And it literally worked perfect because we got back from traveling around July. I started with Banbury in August, and my dad's last day was at the end of December the same year. So sort of for the same reason that we had talked about earlier about maybe not ever wanting the business to be this weird thing between me and my dad.
Yep.
We didn't work together. We worked together for like 4 or 5 months, and it was perfect. And I think it was so we got back from traveling. I started in August, and he was done the end of that year.
And one of the reasons it worked so good is because you didn't have to, if you come in new and you have ideas, and there's your dad that started this thing, he's got his partner, they've grown this thing, you have ideas, the last thing you would want is this family collision.
Exactly. And I, in all fairness, the business I had worked at before Prestige was a family business.
So you could see.
And at times it was not healthy. So I could see, and I never wanted that. And so I kind of took lessons from that.
Yep.
And that's the way we decided to go.
And that the crossover, like the 4 or 5 months crossover there.
Yeah.
It's just like basic, training. Here's what you need to know. Here's like just the basics.
Yeah. And I had been selling for a while, and it comes back to you pretty quick, but it was the basics. And I knew at the time that when I came on, my dad's business partner that was kind of a minority business partner, we were going to sort of go to the partnership level. So it was so nice because she had worked there for ages at the time. And so I was learning from her, learning from him, just pulling it all together, like you say.
And why? What do you think it was that got you, like, pulled you back there? Besides Michelle, like, giving you the ultimatum, but why'd you go back to your roots? Like, what was it?
Honestly, because my dad asked me. I knew that I loved my time working there, and it was quite an honor. Like, honestly, it's quite an honor to be able for my dad to have enough trust in me to say, "Hey, do you want to come try to make this work?"
Yeah.
And and having worked there in the past, it made a lot of sense. Michelle, my wife, had even worked there in the past. So just I knew that being my own boss was something that was amazing, or I felt it was because seeing how my dad was.
Yep. What is it about that? What is it about that statement? Why did your head go to that? You wanted to be your own boss.
It just you can control your destiny
Yep.
as a business. It's all about that. Having worked for someone else was great, but I knew that with being your own boss, the more work you put in, it'll pay off.
Yeah.
I worked really, 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 really hard at Prestige, and I just got my salary.
Yeah.
Whereas I work really, really hard at Banbury, and we can grow the sales.
Yeah.
And I could shape where everything's going.
Yeah. That's
what it's all about.
And being your own boss it can sound glamorous from the outside.
Yeah.
This is me, like, 2 years in talking like this, but
Yeah.
it can sound like, hey, do what you want. You can show up here on a Monday afternoon and do a podcast. You can do all these things, but the amount of energy and thought and hours that go into keeping this thing going all year, every day, every night, it's work.
It's all encompassing. And like, sorry, not to go too deep here, but I was kind of thinking about things to talk about, and like work has really definitely taken over my life, and at times definitely have lost balance. So I would say over the last little while for me, it's been all family, all work, and I definitely to the detriment of like friendships. And so I think for me a big struggle going forward is to just find a better balance and more balance, because you're right, absolutely the business can be all encompassing. Yeah, for us too, we decided one of the big things we decided was to own our own space. So in our new building, we own that. So we're landlords too, and so there's two sides to it, right? It's just it can be all encompassing for sure.
Yeah, it's just So it's deciding to be your own boss. There's so much to it.
There's so much to it.
And when you When you decided to, sorry, I want to just get a timeline here.
Yeah.
From when your dad opened to when he sold it, when you bought in?
So 86 to 02. So that's 16 years, I think.
Dude.
Quick math.
Dude. Me and math? It's a no-go. So anyways, it's probably 16.
Yeah. So I think it's 16, and it's kind of interesting now because I always just see my dad as, well, he started the business, which is the most important thing of any business.
Yep.
But I've actually now been an owner in the business longer than he worked there full time. So it's kind of crazy.
Does it feel like that though?
No.
Like I would look at my dad and be like, he had this business forever. Like I grew up with this business, he had it forever, but now it's.
Yeah, it's become ours, and he's still a part of it, actually. He still owns 10% of the business, which is awesome.
Cool.
And he still helps us out. He's actually coming in January to do inventory with us. And but yeah, I'm actually shocked how long, looking back, that in August of next year, it'll be 20 years for me. It's just flown by, and loved every minute of it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, 20 years is it's
a long time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
And how long you been in the new building?
New building, 9 years.
Oh, so you were in that 14th Street for
27.
Crazy.
Yeah, really crazy. And honestly, that's one thing that is so important to us, owning our own space.
Yeah.
It's really hard to sell a business at the end of the day, but to have an asset like a building that you're contributing to every month with your own rent and have other people helping out, it's something that I would absolutely highly recommend to any entrepreneur.
Was it always on your radar? Once you bought in, did you know that you didn't want to be a renter anymore? Yeah,
pretty soon. And it was doing that quite expensive, like multi-$100,000 reno to the other space, kind of like helping out someone else. It was just, that's when I knew we can't do this for another 27 years. So we started looking for space, almost actually bought a building much closer to our old, when you're coming up 14th Street from 17th, heading south, the top of the hill, there's that, what is now Revive Fitness or something.
Yep.
Just before the Starbucks. We almost bought that building.
No way.
Yeah, but there was weird stuff happening with the old owner. The building that we're in now came available, and it was much bigger. We weren't sure that we wanted to be landlords, but it worked out, and it's so happy we did it.
Yeah, to be a landlord, to help people, to have tenants helping you cover your bills.
Yep.
There's wiggle room. There's wiggle room. So if things are moving around.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it is a lot of work. And some of the tenants we have now through COVID, definitely their business was shut down.
Yep.
And so, we helped them out any way we could. And we've been so lucky in that space for 9 years. I think we've had, of the 3 different spaces that we rent to someone else, we've had one space empty for like 6 weeks.
Yep.
Other than that, it's been packed. And it's phenomenal.
And it's a cool location, cool building. Obviously, I don't know if it's not historic, is it? It just got the vintage.
Well, the city wants us to have it be put as get heritage status.
Right.
We've heard actually, to be honest, from most business people, heard really negative things about doing that.
Yep.
But we have no plans to change it. And in fact, we've done a lot of things. We spent a lot of money at the end of last year stripping off paint that had been painted over the brick that was actually the wrong paint. It was deteriorating the brick.
Yep.
So we're doing things to take it back, and we want to leave it as is. So
it's a cool building.
Yeah, it was built in 1910. So
no way.
For Calgary, it's pretty old.
Old.
Yeah.
So when you're making these moves, obviously the building, like buying the building, going to a different location. The other one interesting piece for me is when you decide to bring people in.
Like partners?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that you saw it, obviously. You saw your dad bring in a partner, then he brought in you.
Yep.
And it kind of just keeps everything going.
Yeah.
Did you know that was a thing that you needed to get to?
To be honest, what I knew is that I would never want to do this on my own. It's so much work, even with a partner.
Yep.
That and I think that different partners have different strengths, and that's what it's always been. So with my old business partner, Lynn, she definitely had strengths that were different than mine, which worked out perfectly.
Yep.
And now with Cam being on board, same thing. He's great on the technical, still great at sales, but he has pieces that I don't have.
Yep.
And I just couldn't imagine doing this, trying to make all these decisions just me.
Yep.
So it's been a real positive for me having a partner.
And when you say you knew right away that there was, you couldn't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Was that just because of the amount of SKUs, just the amount of your business has so many little nuances.
Yeah.
You just knew you couldn't handle that kind of volume by yourself, and you didn't want you were just fine to piece off some of the business.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also things like with our business as owners, we're really, really involved. So even if we want to go on holiday, it's so nice to know that when I am going away on the 18th, that while I'm gone, Cam's just got it.
Yeah.
And not that the employees couldn't, but you just can't really expect them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if something went really south, he's there and it's taken care of. So that's mostly it.
It's worked out.
It's worked out great.
And how long's Cam been?
It's really interesting with Cam. So Cam actually did work for one of our competitors that unfortunately didn't make it. And we actually were buying some displays and stuff from the receiver who took over that receivership. And they usually what happens in a receivership is they keep some of the staff on to help sell stuff off. And one of the staff there said, yeah, there's this guy. He's in university, but he's amazing. You should check him out. And they put us in contact with Cam. And then Cam came and worked with us as an employee for probably about 3-4 years. And he did the exact same thing as me. He was done university finally, and he wanted to go try something else. And so he did. He went off and he worked in a different industry for probably about 4 or 5 years. And then Lynn had given me tons of notice, about 5 years notice, that she eventually wanted to retire and was wondering what we were going to do with her shares. And I think maybe she wanted me. I think I told her the whole time that I really probably wouldn't be interested in buying them myself. So we'd probably need to look for someone. So I said, let's talk to Cam. So Cam and I went for beers.
Did you bike for beers?
Yeah, actually we did. I biked there. Absolutely. And I'm like, man, and it was kind of funny because it was a slower time in Calgary when Cam came on. And I'm like, as soon as the economy takes off, it's going to take off. But no pressure. I was just wondering if you're interested, and he was. And so he came on, and Lynn and Cam worked kind of together with me for a few years, 2-3 years, and then Lynn retired, and so now it's just me and Cam, and it's going. In my opinion, he's going awesome. He's a fantastic business partner. So is Lynn, but it's just going really, really great. We get along, which is awesome.
Do you ever spend any time thinking about how the timing of everything, like does that consume any brain power? Because it just seems when you're doing the right thing, things just seem to happen at the right time. Do you think about it?
I don't think about it because it just happens. It is so weird. I can't explain it, but so many things in the business have just literally been luck. My dad is so funny. In the old shop, he put up a horseshoe, and we moved that to the new shop, and I just think that with business, it's like being good at what you do, putting all the foundations there, but luck is such a huge part of it too.
I agree.
Yeah.
Do you are you and Michelle talking to your son about the family business?
Yeah.
Is there any what's happening there? Because it seems like a interesting avenue.
Well, Charlie has worked for us. We offered him a job. We just needed some extra help. He's not as into the cleaning and vacuuming storage rooms as I used to be. So
different generation.
I guess so. So it's kind of funny because we bug him. He kind of resigned without giving us a resignation letter. Yeah, he's just like, I'm not into this. We had him doing filing and stuff. So for me, with him, I think maybe exactly how my dad felt. Like it would be amazing if he ever thought this would be a cool thing and he wanted to do that, but zero pressure. So so that's it's definitely in the back of my mind, and it would be great. But whatever he decides to do, we will support him obviously 1,000%.
Yeah, it's such a second generation now, and it's been around for so long. It's one of those businesses, if you know it in Calgary, you might not know exactly what you do there, but everyone's heard the name before.
Yeah, it is true. And it stuns us to this day. And it's great too that people come in and they're like, I had no idea you were here. And we're like, really? We've been here 36 years.
What else can we do?
I know. So it's great. Yeah.
It's, and you still got a lot of years left. Like this isn't, like we're still young.
We're still young. Yeah. always thinking about retirement. Michelle's an educator, so she's gonna have a great pension.
Yep.
But just like me, she loves her job immensely. So like she's like, no, I'm going to work till I'm 55 or 60. And I think thinking about that down the future, I think I'm kind of in the 5 to 10 more years kind of range.
Yeah.
It's busy.
Like it's smoking.
Yeah, it's so busy. So the pace is pretty hectic. Going through COVID, I'm sure tons of your guests have stories, but for a while it was just Cam and I.
Yep.
We took our staff from 9 to 2 for about 2 to 3 months, and definitely hardest thing I've ever done, having to put people on temporary layoff. But I felt necessary to ensure long-term survival of the business.
Yep.
And so that was really hard because Cam and I were doing 9 people's jobs, just the two of us, and it didn't nearly get as quiet as we anticipated it would. So it was pretty trying times. So yeah.
So it's wild, man. Do you what's the thing that you love the most right now after all these years working there? What is the one driver for you?
Customers.
That's it.
Relationships.
You just love people walking through the door and just being able to help them, and then understand where they are in their life. Like you just like these people know you, right? And you know them.
I know that. Like, and I'm a huge gossip, so it's half the time it's asking about their kids, and just like following people, getting the pulse on everything, and I feed off of it. Our customers are awesome.
Yep.
And it's so great to be able to help them out, and I love it.
That's it. Because it can, it takes a different type of person that feeds off the energy. Sometimes that can be exhausting, right?
It can, for sure. And I shouldn't say only the customers. Our staff is so awesome, and Cam is a business partner. Like I just love going to work every day.
It's easy to go in there.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
it's rare to be able to say that. There's not a lot of people that they say they love going to work.
Yeah,
because it's work.
It's work, I know. And it's crazy now because every morning now I drop my son off at Western Canada High School. Full circle, hey?
Crazy.
30 years after I was out back, I'm now waiting for him out back.
Crazy.
I drop him off, continue on to the shop. It's really cool.
That's really crazy, hey?
It is really crazy. Yeah, he's loving Western. He played football and they won city championships for the first time in over a decade. It's just such a great introduction to that school for him. But it is really weird, I have to admit.
Because your dad, did he pick you up?
He did.
Like it's all the exact same, hey?
Totally. Yeah. I'll never forget when my dad worked at Revelstoke. The head office was right down by basically Earl's Tim Palace. He was in that building right where the Joyce on 4th is.
Yep.
And he would we'd ride our bikes together past Earl Grey. I'd stop at Earl Grey and he'd keep going down there. And it's hilarious.
So but it's, again, it's just when things are moving in the right direction, it just seems like things just line up.
Absolutely.
And there's just it's hard to make decisions to stay on that path.
Yeah.
You're just kind of reacting and things are just.
Opportunities come up, you jump on them. It's perfect.
So cool, man.
Yeah.
The only question that I let the guests know before we end these things is the Calgary question. So I'm looking forward to you answering this question. When I say Calgary, where does your head go?
To me, Calgary, with just that word, it's stampede. I know a lot of people hate it. It's just, Calgary is just an opportunity to do business. Like even my dad, where he's at now, he's living in BC and Victoria, and he's like, it's just such a different headspace. Calgary is just entrepreneurs, it's liveliness, it's moving forward even in the worst of times. Even during the flood, it was such an awful time, but we were able to help so many of our customers get back, fix their houses up, and we discounted as much as we could, barely making any money. And it's just that entrepreneurial spirit of everyone working together and wanting to be better.
Why? It's interesting. Your dad says that. Like he's seen now too, right? He's seen Victoria and sees Calgary. Yeah. What is it here? What is it? Just do we just look at this? Do we just have access to more opportunity? Do we have just the energy to go after things, or what is it?
I think we create the opportunity with our headspace. Like my dad actually is in Victoria now, but he's been in Salt Spring Island for 20 years, and he's loves Salt Spring. Great friends.
Yep.
But the politics out there, it's like literally, it's like, how can we stop this project, or how can we make this project as difficult as possible to complete? And in Calgary, it's the opposite. It's how can we make it as easy? And it's just, it's everything about it. It's the relationship to the mountains, the outdoors. I think it's just, it consistently is one of the best places in the world to live in all the surveys. And I think there's a great reason why.
Yeah, I agree. I lived in Toronto for 11 months, and that was it. I was like, no, Calgary's it. Yeah. It's everything.
I know. It's incredible. Yeah.
Cool, man. This is really cool.
Yeah, it was so fun.
It was really cool to just kind of hear the backstory, because it's, second generation business. It's really cool to understand how it kind of all happens, because I think everyone has their own ideas of how things happen, but it was really cool to hear.
That's how it went for us. And I had an awesome time being here telling the story, because honestly, I don't know if it's ever been told in this format before. I told my dad actually I was coming on, and he was like literally beaming. He's like, that is so cool. So
yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting you feel like that, because the part of the gist of this podcast is just to let unique individuals tell their story in a very authentic way.
Yeah, a casual way, which I so enjoy. And
because usually, nobody really gets to understand. Nobody really knows the full backstory of us.
That's right.
You, me, anybody, right? So this is a very, that's why I love this show. Because it just I get to hear all these crazy stories. The world, Calgary gets to hear all these stories. And I think it's just a very authentic way for people to get to know somebody.
Totally. And for some strange reason, it just feels like I got stuff off my chest, like liberated, and it's awesome.
It's cool, man.
Enjoyed it so much.
Super cool. Well, I know you're a busy dude, so thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks so much.
And I know we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Okay.